cater for accumulated certificates. Gobi says government has put a lot of attention on health to ensure that the Ministry of Health procures vaccines to vaccinate a large percentage of the population as government prepares to fully reopen the economy. Moving on, the Bank of Uganda has licensed 5 more companies to conduct digital and electronic payments under the new National Payment Systems Law. The companies licensed include Micropay Uganda, Mcash Uganda, and Wave Transfer, among others. Charity Mugumya, the Bank of Uganda Director Communications, says that the 5 bring the number to 7 of the companies that have so far been licensed under the National Payment Systems Act. Here is the story.
The 5 joined MTN and Airtel, who were issued with payment systems operators separately, including payment service provider licenses in May. The National Payment Act, implemented under the National Payment Systems Regulation, seeks to streamline operations of electronic operators. Charity Mugumya, the Bank of Uganda Director Communications, says the 5 brings the number to 7 of companies that have so far been licensed under the National Payment Systems Act. She also says that the total number of companies licensed are 7 in number and 6 others waiting to go through the evaluation process. The National Payment Systems Act, which seeks to drive growth of e-payments and the cashless economy agenda, effectively has made it mandatory for all payment service providers to acquire new licenses. The licenses provides an opportunity to innovate and create new products that are responsive to the needs of the market. The financial technology space has been going through a lot of innovations, introducing products that are previously fallen under no particular regulation. Mobile money being inclusive, which had previously been regulated under Uganda Communications Commission, but its regulation has since been shifted to Bank of Uganda under the National Payment System.
Okay, these 5 companies that have been joined, that have actually been added onto the list, join MTN Uganda as well as Airtel, who were issued with the payment systems operators separately, including payment service provider licenses in May. The National Payment Systems Act, implemented under the National Payment Systems Regulations, seeks to streamline operations of electronic operators. If you look at Charity Mugumya, the Bank of Uganda Director Commission, says that the 5 brings the number to 7 of the companies that have so far been licensed under the National Payment Systems Act. And she furthermore says the total number of companies licensed are 7 in number and 6 others waiting to go through the evaluation process before being granted the licenses to carry on with the activities, as the government is actually looking at this way of tapping into the financial technology or joining the journey of the digital space. Okay, moving on with the idea of joining the digital space and utilizing it, most probably because e-commerce is the way to go as far as business is concerned. A group of Ugandan innovators have come up with an app that intends to provide trade and commerce marketplace on which communities and businesses can buy, sell and promote their products. Innovators term this as the MyLike app, which can be accessed through Google Play Store on Android phones and the App Store on the iPhones, all smartphones. The Ugandan e-commerce scene is a fast-growing startup that is providing solutions to wholesale and retail traders. Pedison Mumbere reports.
Us Ugandans, for we people who love social media, for the whole world, but much more important, that this is an app that has been designed, built by Ugandans.
Uganda has a low internet penetration and high internet costs, which makes the adoption of e-commerce difficult. However, this has not scared away Ugandan app developers to come up with new innovations. In a hustle to provide trade and commerce marketplace on which communities and businesses can buy, sell and promote their products, a group of Ugandan app developers have come up with MyLike app to strengthen business activities amidst COVID-19 pandemic. They say that this app will promote tourism through enhancing culture and their tourist attraction globally, among others.
This app that we are introducing to the world has been carefully designed to suit the lifestyle and is meant to be as interactive as possible, to create job opportunities for the youth directly through third-party service providers, also by providing a platform for job listings and awareness, such that users are able to easily access various job listings in different sectors of the economy.
All we need from someone to open an account is their username, email, and password. And then you enter the world of MyLike. On MyLike, you'll be able to create posts which you can share with your friends, pages, and communities.
According to the World Bank, Uganda's real GDP growth in 2020 was projected to hover below 2%, compared with almost 5.6% in 2019 due to COVID-19. As part of its response to the pandemic's economic fallout, the Ugandan government is at the forefront of promoting e-commerce and digital solutions for faster recovery from the crisis. For instance, it has worked with mobile money operators to reduce fees for digital services and offer complimentary internet data packages to consumers to facilitate cashless transactions.
People in our communities will stay on this app for eternity. Your grandchild, when you are not there anymore, will be able to find it and say, oh, my grandfather did this and this. He lived here. He worked with this one. That is connecting the past communities, the present, and the future communities. So we are working for our future generations and our communities at home who may not become.
Uganda is targeting to use digital platforms to attract millions of tourists. The group say that this app can as well be used to promote tourism internationally.
If you say you love your country, this is a time to use MyLike and tell the world about your country, why you love it, why you think it's so beautiful. This is the time. And you don't stop at the country. You go deep down. From country, you go to the region. From region, you go to the district. From the district, you go to the constituency. Constituency, you go to parish, sub-county. Every community, even a community at work, if you love your work, this is an app that can tell the world how your community at work is so precious to you, so that you make it attractive to people who would wish to come and work in the
Leaders in Uganda have always said that tourism has to trend just like other sectors, trending through online promotion, saying that through digital transformation, Uganda can make quick advertisement and even reach more people cheaply.
In a journey to see that we promote the e-commerce sector, most of the Ugandans are already adopting the idea of digitization, making sure that they facilitate their businesses using online platform away from the creating websites, but this time around as well as promoting, marketing, and all that is aligned on board for the businesses in Uganda as well. So greatly you can see of what impact this is. And if you're to actually look at what is happening in Uganda today, what COVID has done to the economy, and what it has actually done to the businesses that were once strong enough to actually withstand the test of time. You could know that if you have such an app and such apps, these are going to be there for time to come because the phones are there. What the beauty about the apps and the science about the apps is they are always updated. It's not like business that it is going to collapse. No, it can actually be updated, can be merged, and that is why you're seeing all these apps, regardless of the trembling situations. You've seen Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or rather Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. Even with a crisis of getting through the situation, they will still send you a notification to update your app. So by updating, you get new features. So it is always the app developers to look through the situation of seeing that people get the benefit of using it. In a hustle to provide trade and commerce marketplace in which communities and businesses can buy, sell, and promote their products, a group of Ugandans, which is the Ugandan app of, if you could say, Ugandan app developers. We've had a number of these ones that are developing the apps from all angles. Have come up with the MyLike app to strengthen business activities amid COVID-19. They say this app will promote tourism through enhancing culture and their tourist attractions globally, among others. And the group actually says that for the Ugandans out there who claim to be promoting what is being made in Uganda, you should use this app promoting the Bubu policy, promoting all that business Uganda has to offer by using the app. So by prioritizing what Ugandan produces, we have to make sure that everything Ugandan is actually promoted using the Ugandan platform. So that is the way to go. And according to the World Bank, Uganda's real global growth domestic product growth in 2020 was projected to hover below 2%, compared with almost 5.6% in 2019 due to COVID-19. As part of its response to the pandemic's economic fallout, the Ugandan government is at the forefront of promoting e-commerce and digital solutions for faster recovery from the crisis. For instance, it has worked with mobile money operators to reduce fees for digital services and other complementary internet data packages to consumers to facilitate cashless transactions. Let's move on to the next story. The real estate sector has been acknowledged as an excellent industry within East African region because of its massive growth over the years. If you're planning to do investment in Africa, Uganda's real estate is one of those opportunities where investors should actually look out to. Running Uganda real estate development business may, however, become difficult at some point in time, especially if your planning is lacking, as Dr. Sudhir Ruparelia, a successful businessman, asserts. He made the remarks during the edition of the E-Bomba Ya Business Summit at the Uganda Revenue head offices last week. More of the details.
The influx of big, beautiful houses, medium and small, all indicate that Ugandans are prone to investing in real estate. By observation, the commonest form of investment in real estate by a layman is in rentals, usually single and double rooms. Running Uganda real estate development business may, however, become difficult at a time, especially if your planning is lacking. During the E-Bomba Ya Business Summit, Sudhir Ruparelia, a founder of Ruparelia Group, emphasized a comprehensive planning before investing in real estate.
Wherever you do, if you plan it right, and the most important thing in any of this investment, your first thing the Judy has missed out is called location, location, location. And that, if you go to any estate agent, it's the first thing they'll tell you. Investment in real estate, again, is location, location, location. Plan your location right. If it's for retail, it must be in the right location. If it's for arcades, it's in the right location. For office block, is the right location. For industrial warehousing and industrial park, is right location. Low-cost housing, create a community with schools and things like that.
Yes, planning is critical, and it has an impact on the price of land, number one, before you buy it, and I'll approach that from a different perspective. If a piece of land does not have development approval or planning approval, then it will be, you can acquire it slightly cheaper than one that has, okay? Buying a plot of land that has planning approval on it for a specified user type, okay, adds value onto that piece of land, because what it means is, as a developer, you can just come, buy the title or buy the land, the interest in the property, and you proceed to develop immediately. You'll have done away with that, part of the pre-purchase stage where you have to go and find out what can I build, what can I not build. It will be very clear if you have planning permission on that. On the other hand, land which is unplanned is mainly within high density population areas, which is the urban areas, and it tends to be extremely expensive.
Ideally, most people believe that you do not need to go to school to become a real estate developer. Acquisition of knowledge and basics for the business is paramount. Many developers come from various education backgrounds, but still meet the required skills. It could be through individuals or experts and valuation firms, but you need to get as much knowledge as possible because the business is complex. Besides, it requires one to exercise patience, do research, and do the searches to get a true ownership of the land before starting the business.
When you're buying a low-cost housing or an apartment and condominium, I think as part of your agreement, you must ask a landlord to give you a copy of the planning permission he applied for, and then also planning as built. You also need a copy of the NEMA certificate to make sure that the property is built it legally. Then after that, you also need what you call occupation certificate, meaning that when you build your property and you're compliant to all the laws of building, the local authority will give you occupation permit. And after that, you also must get a certificate from the fire. There's a firefighting thing we have to get a certificate from, and there's also for the lift to be certified that it is in working order. So when you're buying a property, make sure if the building you bought is properly built, then you should have all these things available to you as your right as a tenant.
In the city. But Uganda is migrating, the rural to urban migration, 5.7% per annum. That is how quickly or how rapidly our cities are growing. Okay? So whether we like it or not, if we don't plan for these areas, then the slums are going to grow, and the urbanization rates are going to increase every year. The slum dwellings are going to increase if we don't plan for them. Because remember, who's migrating?
At the same summit, Kampala Arcades Advocacy Forum spokesperson Kwebiham Zamir lashed out at policymakers for imposing 18% VAT burden to landlords at the time when the economy is not doing well. He described this act as double taxation.
Of whereby like 18% has been imposed on landlord owners, more so the arcade owners. We feel to us it is injustice, that it may not really work. For one reason, that right now, bringing such a situation in a COVID-19, lockdown that brought business, down and having an economic, slump right now. And then you impose 18% on the landlords. Absolutely, the landlord does not pick money elsewhere apart from the traders, the tenants themselves. So we as the tenants, we are subjected obviously to rental income tax, which is subjected to the landlord, and he passes it to the traders. So 18% imposed as VAT, still it's us to pay. So therefore, what we are heading for is unplanned, kind of economic approach that is not likely to bring any good, situation in the business sector.
Value added tax. So when you have a business, you produce, say, a bottle of water, or you let your property, the value that you add to that property to make it rentable is what is taxed. Now, it is a tax you pay on a sale or a payment, but also as a trader, it's a tax you pass on to the consumer, such that at the end of the day, the tax paid by the consumer is each of the persons in the chain pays their VAT bit. So the business owner will have VAT incurred from the landlord, but it will become part of the business that when he sells, the VAT he paid to the landlord is recoverable once he declares his sale. So it only affects you, like I said before, if you're not registered for.
Policymakers, they should be reasonable enough when they are thinking of taxes. They should probably look into the economy as it stands right now. The issue of sitting somewhere and probably increasing their own taxes, their own pays and all that. They don't really feel the pinch of these taxes that we are paying as taxpayers. They are so much given leverages and a lot of subsidies, a lot of financial kind of reliefs when actually they are getting a lot of money. So an MP would increase his earnings in relation to the taxes that is being collected. So therefore, I always tell people that policymakers, as being politicians and all that, for them they are enjoying, a good atmosphere of good financial liberalization. But when it comes to us, we the taxpayers, they don't mind, because it's so funny in a situation situation whereby the economy is down, then an MP is demanding for an increment, then probably is also going to look at funny ventures of taxing us. Those are the things we are saying now. 18% is brought on rent, on rent, when actually rent is paying 30% rental income tax. Now, that's the funny part of it. In fact, when I look at even rent itself, for example, if you're in Kampala, you pay what we call ground rent, you understand it, that's a local government tax. Again, you're paying 30% rental income tax. Again, you're bringing 18% VAT on the same, taxable venture.
The VAT Amendment Act of 2019 reintroduced VAT withholding, but at a reduced rate. Whereas the law took effect at a time no list was gazetted by the minister to identify who would be the designated agents. A designated withholding agent for VAT purpose is required to withhold and remit 6% of the taxable value on making payment for taxable supplies. The 6% VAT withheld shall be recognized as a payment in the subsequent VAT return of the taxpayer from which the tax is withheld.
Value Added Tax Amendment Act of 2019 reintroduced VAT, that is a value added tax withholding, but at a reduced rate, i.e. 18% of the taxable value to 6% of the taxable value, whereas the law took effect at the time and no list was gazetted by the minister to identify who would be the designated agents at that time. A designated withholding agent for the VAT purposes is required to withholding and remit 6% of the taxable value and making payment for taxable supplies. The 6% value added tax withheld shall be recognized as a payment in the subsequent VAT return of the taxpayer from which the tax is withheld from. So, according to businessman Sudhir Ruparelia, he's actually saying every one of the investors who are looking through investing in the real estate, you should have professional planning, or you should plan well before you engage into this business. It needs prior planning because it's a tricky business, and one should actually focus and put serious view into that sector. It is growing, blossoming, promising. Everyone is trying to venture into it, but it comes with a lot of costs before you can actually pull it off. So, I mean, if you're out there and you're a businessman who wants to invest in it, what are you waiting for? But plan accordingly before you get onto it. Okay, away from the local scene, what about what is happening from the international in regards to the business stories? Let's start off from Nigeria. Nigeria's revenue and the performances pose uncertainties to the 2022 budget deficit financing. They are ominous uncertainties ahead of Nigeria and its proposed 2022 fiscal spending plan of 16.39 trillion nairas, a figure that is 12.5% higher than its current 2021 budget, with revenue sources remaining short as a result of the federal government is historical underperformance across different segments of its revenue chain. Here are the details.
The country's historical revenue and the performance, which has taken legendary status in the last 6 years, has been well exhibited in various budget life cycles and has sometimes led to a crowding out effect with consequences for private sector actors and also in deficits that stem from the government's diminishing revenue accretion powers. Bismarck Rawani, Chief Executive Officer, Financial Derivatives Company Limited, and one of many analysts who have looked at the numbers said Nigeria's debt service is increasing and total productivity flat. The gap is widening as government revenue continues to fall short of total expenditure. The growing concerns over debt sustainability indicate Nigeria is quickly falling into a debt trap, but debt service will spike when artificially low interest rate policy is rejected and an increased domestic debt issues. Mop-up liquidity becomes imminent. In a related development, the Debt Management Office's latest data released on the federal government's debt services brings further evidence that Nigeria's federal government domestic debt has become stable with a 3.2% year-on-year increase to 323 billion naira in the second quarter 2021. Thus, Nigeria's domestic debt stock rose 14% over the same period of 2021. But the weak point in the narrative of government's debt service and revenue generation hangs on the poor revenue collection of the Federation government, from which it is to service its debts.
The country's historical underperformance, we're talking of Nigeria, which has taken legendary status in the last 6 years, has been well exhibited in various budget life cycles and has sometimes led to a crowding out effect with consequences for private sector's actors and also built-in deficit that stem from the government's diminishing revenue accretion powers. Okay, let's check out what is happening from the United Kingdom. As inflation is likely to hit 5%, according to the English bank chief economist. Howe Peel told the Financial Times that the bank would have a live decision to make at its next interest rate setting meeting on 4th November. And that is the New England's bank chief, new chief of the economist, who has warned that the UK inflation is likely to hit or surpass 5% by earlier next year. Let's check out the details.
The Bank of England's new chief economist has warned that the UK inflation is likely to hit or surpass 5% by early next year. It follows recent comments from Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey, who said it will have to act on inflation. Hugh Peel told the Financial that the bank would have a live decision to make its next interest rate setting meeting on 4th November. The UK interest rate has been at a historical low of 0.1% since March 2020. Recent data showed that inflation growth slowed to 3.1% in the year to September. However, it is expected to increase because of rising energy costs, higher wages to fill record vacancy number, and supply chain disruption. Peel, who succeeded the Bank of England's former chief economist Andy Halden last month, said he will not be shocked to see the inflation reach 5% or above in the coming months. He told the Financial Times that's a very uncomfortable place for a central bank with an inflation target of 2% to be.
Howe Peel told the Financial that the bank would have a live decision to make at its next interest rate setting meeting on 4th November. The UK interest rate has been at a historical low of 0.1% since March 2020. And the recent data showed that inflation growth slowed to 3.1% in the year to September. However, it is expected to increase because of rising energy costs, higher wages to fill record vacancy number, and the supply chain disruption. Okay, that brings us to the end of our news hour. Coming up, I'm just going on to the topical analysis as we're winding up the show. Just try to keep it S&B. We're just driving businesses together. This is Mark 24.